Hey everyone, I'm Troy Wrangle, and I'm doing my little music stories with Troy. And coming on, I will have Nache as a guest, and we are going to talk about his early early life, hopefully. Let me see here. We might have to do this over. What up, Irv? See if we can get through these technical difficulties. Let's see here. See what we can do. We might have to start all over again, right? All right, I think he's coming on. There he is. All right, everyone, this is Nache, plays drums. We're just going to talk to him about his early life in music. So, Cuz, what's your earliest musical memory you can think of?
Oh, hello everybody. There's some pictures, I guess, real young little. I, I guess I could bang around whatever I could bang on. Use I could use for maybe spoons, forks, whatever, I guess. But there's a couple pictures of me being very young, sitting in my grandpa's house on the stairs, and the old the metal back of chairs. I used to hit that to make a loud sound, make a cymbal type sounds. But yeah, that's about some of the earliest pictures of memory, but
Uh-huh.
but I I lived with my grandfather growing up, and he had the band Los Macambos, and they would rehearse in the basement, and I would sit at the steps, and right at the bottom of the steps there was drums. So that's all I seen were the drums. I seen all the other instruments. I heard them, but I didn't see them. But I would hear the drums, and I would just sit there, tap my foot, to the music, and I think I was 4 years old about that time. And
Oh.
so leave, I would sneak down there and start banging away until I got yelled at and come back upstairs. 3 years of remembrance of um, wanting to play the drums. Actually, that was one of my. I guess I didn't see any other instruments, so not they didn't. I wasn't didn't want to play them.
Yeah. So you have obviously I'm going to know the answer to this, but for everyone else, do you have any older relatives who played that you think might have had some influence on you, or because it's interesting. Some people come from families of music, and then other people don't have anybody in their family. So who were some of the older relatives that you had that played music already?
Well, there's quite a few actually relatives that actually play old and current. But our grandfather, Isaac Wrangle, he was leader of the Macambo band, and he was the biggest influence, I think, out of all of us. And there's some pictures I have. My uncle Socorro on the Nazi side, he played the stand-up bass. So that's uh, another one. And I think there's a couple other pictures um, floating around with our relatives that are that played that played down in Mexico in bands in Mexico. Um, but I do have a lot of relatives in the music right now. You know, you. Um, your brother Kevin, he's playing, and then I have a cousin Daniel down in Nashville playing drums down there, and I think he plays a couple other little instruments here and there. Um, and then we have a cousin out in California on the Wrangell side, on my Wrangell
That's
side,
right.
Carlos Cruz. He's got a bone breed out in California. He's doing great on the LA area, and I think he's down in Austin right now. But yeah, and then on the Nache side, I have my cousin John. He plays the trumpet. I have cousin Phil Bonilla plays the bass. And then I just found out 2, 3 years ago. I have a cousin down in Mexico, down in Leon. His name is Juan Nache, and he's the lead vocalist for his band down there. So I have quite a few musical influences in the family.
Yeah, yeah. Now, did your mom play at all, like a school instrument or anything like that?
Yeah, how could I forget? My mom played the clarinet in school. My sister played the flute. So yeah, there was a. How can I forget that? Sorry about that.
And my dad.
Don't worry, I forget the most important one. I have my little notes here, and I don't think I have his name down. Oh, it's the first Ernie. Um, I remember hearing stories about guitar players here in town. And, so yeah, that's we have quite a few. I have quite a few relatives, um, and which you know,
Yeah.
but
Do you remember what kind of records you were listening to back, like, let's say when you were 4 or 5, the real early things that you might have heard?
um, what I heard was just when my grandpa would transpose all of the Mexican music for the Macambos, and those are some of the records I started to hear. And I would start to learn already. I didn't learn the basic rock and roll Beatles, Elvis type beats right then. I was already learning different types of Latin type rhythms to start out before I started learning the other rhythms. But yeah, those are some of the earlier records. A little bit later on, um, just the 50s and 60s. You
Mm-hmm.
know, Elvis and the Beatles. Um, People like that, Richie Valens. All those people. That's what I used to listen to. Um, I really didn't listen to a lot of blues. I didn't listen to a lot of jazz. Um, that came later on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually
But
it does for most people anyway, doesn't it? Because when you're young, you just don't have the ears yet for some, especially for jazz stuff. Our ears aren't developed yet.
exactly. But yeah, those came a little bit later on in my pre-teen years, I should say. Because
Yeah.
I was, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. Um, but yeah, Grandpa seen something that I was interested in playing drums, and um, I think I was between 5 and 6 years old. He took me down to Boldy's because there was no more that he could show me, kind of rhythm wise. Back then, the old school drum teachers, they just wouldn't take students that young. Um, you had to wait till maybe sixth grade, when you're just getting into grade school band and things like that. And somehow Grandpa talked him into just letting me play and listen to him, um, and he says, "Yeah, he can play," and he said, "Well, put some music down. He can read the music too." And from then on, I started taking drum lessons down there, and start out with. That's one of my earlier years. I was already 6 years old, and that's even when I teach now, that was one of the first lessons that I learned. Don't matter how young you are, if you're willing to learn, I would adjust my way of teaching to teaching the younger kids now the way I teach them. So it don't matter the age. Somebody says, "Hey, I've got a son or 4 years old." I said, "Oh, let's bring them in." So I
Right.
give everybody a chance.
Yeah. Now, was that Bolby's in East Moline at that time, or was it somewhere else?